Public, yes, would be a good idea.
Commissioner Cheney.
Here.
Commissioner Castellon.
Here.
Commissioner Russo.
Here.
Commissioner Lawbach. Judge Mills.
Here, but we have a quorum. Public comments on proposed 2022 tax rate used to fund the 2023 budget. All right,
If there are none from the public, I guess the commissioners can speak.
good.
I just wanted to let commissioners and judge commissioners know, we have originally done this public hearing, and because we had to move back adopting the budget, we have to adopt the tax rate within 5 days of having the public hearing, 7 days. And due to having to move everything back, we are required to have this public hearing to stay in statutes.
Any comments?
So I think what Commissioner Laubach was asking is if commissioners may have questions, they could address them now on the budget.
The commissioners aren't allowed to speak at a public hearing.
Not on the budget, because that's not what this rate is, this budget public hearing before.
Okay, good. Speaking on the tax rate would be fine. Same issue, really. I would have supported the budget if we had been able to avoid raising the tax bills for the citizens. And I would have been in favor of even the COLA, whatever COLA is going to be adopted today, which sounds like it's going to be the 5% one. If we had been able to do that without raising the tax rate. But as it stands with adopting the COLA, inflating the budget and raising the tax rate, I can't vote yes for either. So I expect to be voting no on both later today. I think that a budget that causes us to raise the tax rate is per se an unreasonable budget, not a legitimate action to be taken in the time of a recession and inflation. And I really don't want to be associated with any action that basically mimics what's going on today at the national level in the White House and the US Congress. I think it's shameful.
Any comments on the budget,
On the tax rate.
the tax rate, I'm sorry.
I have another question then. Since this public hearing is just for the tax rate, although the tax rate is what is funding the budget, is there an area under our regular agenda when we go into Commissioners Court where we can address concerns about the budget?
I guess when we vote on the budget.
Have an item on the agenda to adopt the budget, I would say that would be where you would discuss budget issues.
22. Should be able to talk then.
One more time, any comment on the tax rate? Hearing no comments, anything on? You have anything? Nothing? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made. Second, second, Commissioner Cheney. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castellon.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. We'll be back at 9 o'clock for the regular meeting.
to budget. They were unable to provide it because they don't do it. Meeting minutes posted on their website do not mention the word budget in the 27 months of information that I requested, except for May of 2021, where $1,000 was added to the budget for Little Bay. No other budget review took place. All three of the budgets they supplied are just as the copy before you. Only what they provided to me were all stamped proposed. The budget to be presented for your approval has a cover page indicating that it is for fiscal year 2022-2023. Further evidence that they do not understand what they are trying to do. Their fiscal year is the same as a calendar year according to the audit. Yet they appear to be trying to combine 2 years or at least more than one 12-month period in the budget for approval. That is completely improper. The budget before you has an increase in expenditures of 42% over fiscal year 2021. Proposed $5,373,738 versus $3,775,930. This is an increase of $1,573,728. No explanation is provided for the huge increase. The district has a fund balance of nearly $10 million, 3 times their average annual expenditures. That represents at least 6 times the fund balance to expenditures ratio of all other Aransas County governmental bodies. And they want to increase spending 42%. There are only 2 possible explanations for the lack of information provided. They don't have a clue as to their responsibilities with respect to the budget and do not understand the process, or they believe they operate in a vacuum and are not responsible for providing good financial information to the public. I urge you to reject their budget request until they can properly justify it. What they have asked you to do is an embarrassment and frankly shows they do not respect your position.
Mr. Hackett? Do you want to speak?
If you'll come up to this podium.
Come up to the podium, please. And your name and address before you start.
I'm Mark Hackett. I live at 136 Allen Parks Drive. And you want to know my concerns?
Yeah.
First thing is, I guess, the drainage on the east side of Allen Parks, Rattlesnake Point Road.
You realize we can't respond to anything.
Right, yeah.
Just make your statement.
Yes, right. And then the other item is the environmental on, I believe y'all call it the E1100 project on the west side of Rattlesnake Point Road. We're putting all the pre-manufactured homes in. And I'm not certified, but I've been through environmental training for 20 years with major gas companies throughout the United States. And what those people are doing, the contractor, there is no environmental controls up except around the west side of that project next to the shoreline of that bay of Pete's Bend right there, and all that silt is coming off the project. And the first thing that's on y'all's website, the county's website, is there's supposed to be environmental controls around any project. It's not happening. So that's my concern about that deal, because it's all running into Pete's Bay. I've taken pictures of it. My neighbors do too. And there's a lot of concern about that. Who's watching the environmental part of that project? And if you all have anybody that's trained in it, because I haven't seen anybody out there. They're losing hydraulic fluid out there. I got pictures of that. There's nothing going on out there that's being controlled or contained. And everything runs into our bays there. So anyway, that's my concern.
Thank you, sir. John, I can't read your last name, but 518 Rattlesnake Point. Hey,
Yes, sir. My name is John Danos. I live at 518 Rattlesnake. I'm the neighbor of Mark Hackett. And just along the same lines as what he was saying, I'd like to request that be put on the agenda so it can actually be talked about, because there's this issue has been going on. I've been out there for 12 years. Mark's been out there for over 20, and we've had major floods and drainage issues for years. And now we have the new development where they're bringing in new ground, and they're talking about concreting it, but yet they're not doing anything with the drainage or the EPA. So that's my concern. I'd just like to have it put on the agenda so it can be talked about. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Horn.
Hey there. My name is Chris Horn, Allen, 149 Allen M Parks. I have the same concerns, except I'm thinking more proactively. They're building up the grade on a natural marshland that was once there, and they have built it up. It seems it's about 18 inches to 2 feet. And as far as I know, that there's a Texas law that prevents any development from diverting water into an original settlement. My question is if there's anybody overseeing this, because all the water is it's on a bay, so it should slope off into the bay. And everything from 1069 to Rattlesnake Point drains off into that area. And this is creating a blockade, and it's going to end up flooding out everybody out there. Another question I have another concern I have is whether or not there's a geotechnical investigation being done having to do with the soil and the soil that's been put into that area. Because like I said, it is on the base. So it's something that we need to take into consideration for the environment there. So those are my concerns. And I would also like to have that put onto the next meeting or whenever it's possible for the commissioners to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Sandy Jefferson.
I'm Sandy Jefferson. I'm at 170 Island M Parks. I have basically the same concerns as my neighbor and neighbors, and would like it to be put on the agenda also so that we can discuss it further.
Thank you.
Can you guys, all before you leave us with your phone numbers?
Yes,
Thanks.
I'll give.
Thank you for coming.
They're in the pipe right here.
Okay, I was gonna get your phone numbers.
Hey, go ahead, help yourself.
Okay.
All right, under consent agenda, we have, again, Lori at work. I'd like to thank Lori Pavlis for a $100 donation to animal control. I have a motion. Motion made, second, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lawball.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item number 5.
Move to approve a request for variance on county subdivision regulations on minimum lot size requirement to replat 1708 through 1712 South of 2nd Street from 2 lots into 1 lot. I'll second that.
Motion made, second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
I just have one question. I don't know if it's for Kat, if she's online, or if David can respond.
David's here.
Got sick today.
On the agenda memo, the proposed legal description says lot 70R, but I'm thinking it's supposed to be 10R.
I don't know.
I don't know if that makes a difference in how we have it on the agenda. Should we amend it and just clarify that it's lot 10R?
It doesn't mention that on the item. I know it's showing in the backup, but for the particular item, the language doesn't include that.
So if the agenda item doesn't go to that much detail, do we need to worry about the staff memo, Jen?
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 6,
I move to approve the proposed change order number 3 for the construction contract with Marshall Company Limited for the Rockport Center for the Arts parking lot funded by Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery CDBG-DR grant administered by the GLO contract number 20-065-098-C270 to increase the term of the contract by adding 23 days to the schedule to allow additional time to complete punch list items, orientation, and inspection.
I'll second that.
motion made and second, Commissioner Russo.
Sounds like this just adds days, but not dollars. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's no dollars. It's all finished. It's just paperwork right now. Making sure everything is correct.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I've got one question, or not a question, but just a statement. I thought whenever we were doing this, that we were going to stop using the abbreviations until we had decided or discussed it or put it in the main document. I mean, I know what CDBG-DR is, but somebody reading this 10 years from now probably won't.
Well, it's right there
Remind
before it.
Remind everybody that we need to put the full name in at least before the.
It's right before that.
Jack, it's,
Community Development Block Grant
Disaster recovery.
disaster recovery.
Well, I'm looking at them right now. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Here,
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I apologize, I did not.
Item number 7,
I move to approve proposed change order number 5 for the construction contract with JM Davidson Limited for the Cedar Bayou Vincent Slough reopening project number 85937 to increase the allowable cost for diesel fuel by $3.50 per cubic yard to account for increased fuel cost.
I'll second it.
motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney.
So where's the money coming from?
we have between the FEMA grant and the Parks and Wildlife grant.
Okay,
We'll cover
So
that.
there's still money in the grant to cover this
Yeah, oh, yeah.
increase.
What's the progress on it?
We are almost done, virtually almost done. Marshall's here, or he was here a minute ago. But he is, we're within 1,000 yards of wrapping up.
I have a question, John. On the work change directive, effective date of work change directive, it shows 9/1/2021. Is this retroactive?
Yes, I guess it is. I'm not sure.
I didn't know that the county paid things retroactively for an increase.
Well, they've been,
Is that the gentleman?
Yes.
they've been fueling their equipment out there with at $6 a gallon or 5 something a gallon, It's all spring, all season. So this is just getting it squared away.
But this goes back one full year. I'm not sure that gas had taken a huge jump.
No, this is
last
just for
September.
this is just for this season,
Just this time since April.
just this season.
The original contract goes back to last year. The reason they're here now is because they didn't finish before the hoop and cranes got here and had to come back this year
Right.
to finish it. It's
Right.
Still the same contract.
Correct.
So this additional amount, which comes out to $14.54 per cubic yard, is effective as of what date moving forward? Today's date?
No,
No, last April.
when they went out there this last time.
And so the total change order
We're just
amount,
adjusting our contract to accommodate for the cost increase in fuel.
and so the total change order amount is almost $263,000.
Correct.
Can the county attorney's office confirm to us we don't have a legal issue with the retroactive change in expense of this sort?
You want to come up?
This is an item that I reviewed prior to the meeting. But so long as the funds are available, and it doesn't exceed the percentage increase allowed in the state law contract. I don't know if for
Right, we didn't jump the gun and pay it, but we are talking about changing what we're going to pay for services already rendered. But I guess the change order amounts to an amendment to the contract. So the contract does not now allow us to pay it, but if we change the contract, it will allow us to pay it. And there's not a problem with doing that retroactively.
I don't think that there's a problem doing that retroactively because they haven't been paid this amount yet. Is that correct, John?
That is correct.
So the payment has not been made without the commissioner court approval. I don't think that there's any reason why you couldn't consider doing it today. If you'd like us to take a look at it and bring it back to you, I'd be happy to take a look at it with John to make sure that I can answer all of your questions more fully.
But I think the issue raised by Commissioner Rousseau is more whether it's a good policy decision. I just wanted to make sure we didn't also have a legal issue.
To me, it looks like a policy decision more so than a legal decision.
And with the price of gas going down now, will there
Well,
be any
That's
adjustment?
it now.
We're done.
We're done?
Yeah,
Because I
diesel
thought you
fuel,
said we had about,
1,000 yards will be done in no time.
right,
So you gotta remember, everything has to be barged out there too,
right.
and that costs. So it's,
I would amend my motion to include that the county attorney's office review the documents before doing.
You want to table it?
I'll second that.
I think, to me, I'm fine with them reviewing.
In other words, the approval would be conditional on
On the
a
attorney.
review to
The
occur
attorneys
this later,
Getting a
right?
chance to look at it and approve them that it's proper.
All right, motion.
I'll
I'll
second that
second that.
amendment.
I already have a second
Okay.
on that from Commissioner Cheney. I do have a question, though. Does that, with a conditional agenda item, does that mean that this is approved unless the county attorney's office finds fault with this? Or does this mean this will come back to a future agenda?
I would say the
It's-
answer would be yes to the first question.
Right.
It's
Thank you.
approved when she says it's
Okay,
okay.
Automatic as soon as she's completed her review
okay.
positively.
All right, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 8.
I move to approve the certificate of completion and contractor's final payment affidavit from the Marshall Company Limited for the Rockport Center for the Arts parking lot project, which was funded by a community development block grant disaster recovery grant administered by GLO contract number 20-065-098-C270.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 9.
I move to approve the certificate of completion of phase 1 for hazard mitigation grant 4332-017 Fulton Beach Road Shoreline Restoration Project.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Casterline.
Now, I understand that this phase is limited to the engineering studies.
this is just the engineering. This is wrapping up that grant.
Is there projected start time for?
There is no
doing it?
start time.
Is this the work we decided to abandon?
No.
We shelved it. We withdrew it.
This is the southern part then, not the northern part, or is this
This is the southern part.
the southern part? Got it.
We're just cleaning up the grant. This is the original section of Fulton from Trailer Avenue to
Oh, that
Mesquite
part.
Street.
Okay.
From trailer to where did you
I
say,
think
John?
it's Myrtle or Mesquite, whatever's up there north of the Fulton Harbor.
So this will pay for the engineering
See,
portion.
that's paid for already. This is just wrapping up the paperwork.
Yeah, we paid for it. It was completed a long time ago. It was paid for a long time ago. This is just the paper that says it's done.
It's
we're-
done,
We're
and we're
filing
done.
it away.
Yep, put on shelf.
And so where it shows grant funds received were approximately $209,000.
Mhm.
Was that all spent on,
Engineering?
Engineering?
Yes,
and we've decided we're not going to do that project
that
at all?
project has been for like 2.5 years. 2 years.
The neighbors, the citizens
I
along
know.
that stretch, yeah,
But we still have the problems with the road.
but not with that engineering.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item number 10,
I move to approve allowing the county judge to sign a routine airport maintenance program ramp grant with the Texas Department of Transportation, wherein the airport will receive 50% reimbursement for grant eligible maintenance expenses for possible reimbursement of up to $50,000.
I'll second that.
motion made and second, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? You can sit back down and no discussion.
No,
Oh,
I have
oh,
a question.
I was-
Mike. Come on up to the
I'm
mic,
sorry.
please.
Sit down.
Good morning. I know we have had issues off and on with the lighting out there.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll get it fixed and we have rain and then it's not working so much anymore. So on page 4, under item J, it says the sponsor, and that's the county, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall operate runway lighting at least at low intensity from sunset to sunrise. I just want to confirm we're able to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even
good.
if we have to turn them on manually, they'll be on. But they're currently set to come on automatically with a photo cell at sunset. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lawbach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item number 11,
I move to approve the proposed final design drawings and specifications for the new aquarium at Rockport Harbor Building.
I second that.
motion made and second, Commissioner Russo.
So where are they? I thought we were going to have a presentation today on the,
No, everybody should have gotten parts of the plan in your package.
Correct.
Correct.
Is everybody on board with the project?
The aquarium folks are, yes. So
It's already gone to, I believe it's already gone to the navigation district.
Yes,
they saw the preliminary and we will gladly send over the final plans.
so we have final plans now.
Yes,
Is that engineering plan? I mean, construction plans? They're
they're construction plans, yes.
And what is our timeline, John?
Right now, I have to wait and see where we're at, how we're going to proceed. And we have to go for permits and stuff like that. So as soon as you approve it, then the architect will go ahead and move forward on the permits.
Now, this will actually be a county building,
This will be a county building.
in
right?
the,
On navigation property.
Yeah, we have a lease.
and what's the budget?
I don't have that budget yet.
So do we not have a sort of a rough idea what this plan would cost to build?
At this point, when the new world and with costs and stuff, it was 600,000, but it's considerably more than that now.
You think it could be pushing $1 million?
Yes.
You think $1 million, should I aim higher, or do you think $1 million is probably
At
enough?
this point, I don't know. The architect will provide us with a budget.
Do you think you'll have that, say, by our next court meeting?
I don't know that. Yes, maybe it should be, but
Commissioners, this project is supposed to be paid for through RPA, our insurer,
Right.
right.
from the Harvey claim. So the budget should be set and controlled by RPA if they continue to administer our claim the way they have in the past.
Is the plan then that we would not move forward on this one unless we can get funds from the insurers? I mean, this is not something we're going to build out of pocket, right?
Correct. The only
That's
thing
correct.
that I understand is the Commissioners Court was to look at the plans to make sure that you're okay with the design that RPA's architect has come up with, but that no additional items would be brought to you except for updates, because Commissioners Court would not be paying for nor contracting for any of the work directly.
Correct.
Okay.
Just as an aside, are we planning for emergency backup power?
The generators are already there. The aquarium folks own a sizable generator mounted in place. We will just run a conduit from where its existing spot and put it onto the panel. So it'll be set up that way.
We're not lucky with our microphones.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just move it up.
There you are. Is that better?
Slides down.
So yeah, the generator is in place.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve issuing a new request for bids for the community building plaza and parking lot project due to previous bids coming in over budget, and we need to also inject that this is to be funded by Community Development Block Grant, Disaster Recovery, CDBG, DR, grant administered by GLO contract number 20-065-098C270.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
Now, as I recall, some months back, we approved a change order to the architect's contract on this.
Right.
That was gonna, it was a fairly expensive change order, but it was gonna reduce the cost enough to pay for itself. But we're still not able to get within budget. But what are our,
The estimate came in, the plans were reduced to reduce the cost of the plaza and the community building and the parking lot by over $200,000. The plan estimate from Brodus came in, the estimate came in last week at 3.7. Our concern is what the budget, what the bid numbers are and the limited number of bids.
so help me out with the numbers. 3.7 million is what the last round of bids gave us to understand it would cost. But what's our budget? How much do we have in grant funds?
We have 4.7 plus.
So we have 4.7 to spend and our bids came in at 3.7.
The estimate came in at 3.7 from Brodus.
I'm missing the part of where we're over budget. I must just be missing some numbers.
What,
somewhere.
Commissioner, what John is talking about is our estimate was the 3.7 and our budget is the 4.7. Our bids came in much higher than that for the first
4.9.
round.
The original project was $4.9 million.
Okay, we were hoping for something around 3.7. Our own internal estimate, our budget's 4.7 and the actual bids came in at 4.9. Is that?
Right. So we have put together monies that were left over from the parking lot, some monies from the hospital that we didn't use, and we assembled a new number and we're at 4.758. Which
Commissioners,
I'd
we
rather
want,
not be talking in public about, but that's okay.
Commissioners, we want to be careful about talking too specifically about numbers when we're talking about soliciting bids.
Exactly.
So I want to interject and just remind us all that these are estimated numbers. And we're hopeful that anybody who does reply to a solicitation for bids will look at what their own cost would be and not any of the numbers we're speaking about today.
Right.
I would like to amend the motion to say to disapprove the rebid and the building of the community building, plaza, and parking. When this was first proposed, there was a perceived need, perhaps real need in the community for public buildings, public restrooms in the downtown area. I think with the Center for the Arts and some of the other buildings that are going up, specifically the courthouse and the city hall, there will be available public restrooms and parking, and that we could better use that money than to put up this building and put in a plaza, which is basically a lot of concrete that I've seen from the drawings. And I would recommend that we just scrap this and disapprove it.
Commissioner,
community-
this is the only thing it can be used for, the GLO.
Exactly. And it's a contract.
It's a contract under a grant,
For this
Correct.
specific
For this-
building,
for
the
this
parking
only.
lot, and the plaza.
just like the money for the Fulton Beach Road was. That
Exactly.
we decided to not do that project. And so we were getting rid of that, giving back that money in essence.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
The parking lot is not just ancillary parking for the public, but the actual primary parking lot for the courthouse. Is that
It's
correct?
for the courthouse and it's for the, for City Hall. It's 186 spaces.
I can see a better argument for the parking lot. I think we're going to
You
have to
can't have, you
one.
can't have either or. You have to have it. It's a package.
But I hear Commissioner Rousseau's comments about the community building and the plaza. I mean, it's always seemed like a nice idea. And the idea was sort of, it wasn't going to cost us anything because this grant money was landing in our laps. But if we're having trouble staying within the grants and still getting it built, neither of those ever struck me as necessities. They were just jewelry on an already very expensive project that we've had to raise taxes and borrow money to build.
Commissioners, the GLO has given us an opportunity to revise our contract because of
Yes.
some changes that came up in the past. I've asked before about whether we could pursue just part of this project and not all three elements. And the answer was no, that we have made significant revisions already. This is an all or nothing, like John said. Either we resolicit and we try to get bids that are in budget, or we don't. But commissioners, do remember that this is just for us to go out for bids again. That still gives you an opportunity to look at what comes in to decide whether you want to pursue the project once we have numbers come back.
Are we getting separate bids on the parking lot?
No,
No, it's all one package.
Do we have an estimate of what it would cost to build a 185 spot parking lot if we just decided to pay for one ourselves?
I have not.
Can we
$1 million.
make this request for bids broken out so that we get separate numbers for the pieces, including
We
the parking
could
lot?
do that, Commissioner, but if we do, we have to understand that if we only chose to pursue one element, that it would be at the county's cost and not
Totally.
paid for with the grant funds.
Right, but what we're talking about doing now is invading the money that we saved by not building the hospital, which we sold to the public as we were going to use the money mostly to improve roads and drainage, which was pretty popular, although there was sharp disappointment over the
and-
hospital. But spending it on the community building and a plaza, and a parking lot associated with the rather unpopular new courthouse project is a different matter.
Commissioner, most of the money that came out of the hospital project went to drainage projects.
But today we're talking about allocating some of it to the community building, the plaza, and the parking
Right.
lot for the courthouse.
Technically, you weren't allocating it today. You would be allocating it once you decide to pursue the project after bid numbers come back. Today, we're only asking for permission to send out that solicitation. Commissioners Court would remain in control of making decisions once numbers come back.
Commissioners, I would also like to add that the community building, because our courtrooms are so small, they were planning on using that for jury pools. That was one of the reasons that they could use the smaller courtrooms, because they would have that extra room to do their jury pools.
I just don't like seeing the budget ballooning every time we turn around.
Any further discussion?
So I
Well-
have an amendment from Commissioner Russo on the floor to disapprove and scrap the project. I have.
Do we have a second?
I don't have a second.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Commissioner, this is to amend and scrap, to disapprove and scrap. Commissioner Cheney,
Nay.
Commissioner Casterline,
Nay.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Nay, I buy the argument that we should do the request for bids and then reevaluate.
Judge Mills.
Nay. 4 for, 1 against. Item 13.
Well, we have to go
We
back.
have to vote on 12.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Item number. Let's go back to it.
So then I have a motion as it reads with the exception of adding, and a motion by Commissioner Casterline, seconded by Commissioner Cheney, to add in the language that this is out of a CBDG-DR grant. We have the longer community development block grant, disaster recovery 20-065098 C70.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, 4 for, 1 against. All right, item 13.
Move to approve entering into an interlocal corporation agreement between Aransas County, Texas, the city of Rockport, Texas, the town of Fulton, Texas, for emergency dispatching services for a term of up to 3 years, with each party paying for use of services.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Commissioner Cheney. we do have some discussion, I believe.
I sent some comments to Ms. Osteen about my concerns about how the contract reads. I don't know whether those can be resolved today or we should just take some more time on this.
Well, Commissioner, I'd like to try to resolve your concerns today if possible. Otherwise, I'd be happy to bring it back to you on the 26th. I went ahead today and printed off what was originally adopted in 2015, just so you can see that it was approximately 1.25 pages long among the three parties. In 2016, it was revised and added about 1/2 page of text for the three parties. This version that we are looking at today has quite a few additions. I've added some standard contract language that wasn't present in the original version. This has been provided to Fulton and to the city of Rockport. And it's my understanding that there were no questions, comments, or requests for revisions after I made revisions. The main difference here is how the invoicing will take place. Instead of looking at the annual pro rata share of the cost, we would be looking at it on a monthly basis. The county would invoice the other parties and be paid for the actual use for the previous month. If you look at the percentages overall, the county is actually using less of the actual dispatch services than we have been contracted to pay for. So this will result in a cost savings to the county if usage continues the way it is now. Some of the comments that Commissioner Laubach had were related to default. And in a traditional contract, we normally do have additional terms that aren't present in this draft. I acknowledge that. Part of it is the nature of it. Dispatching services are an essential governmental function, and none of these three entities can operate without dispatch services. So while it may be naive of me to assume that nobody would default, it is a function that would have to continue no matter what. They have to have emergency services dispatched. So if you'd like me to revise it and ask the other two parties to approve changes to add additional clauses, I'd be happy to do that. I, however, am satisfied with the language that's here now because of the nature of the agreement, who the agreement is with, and understanding that we can always add language should there be a problem in the future. So it's up to the Commissioner's Court on whether you'd like to proceed with this draft or ask for me to make additional revisions. I'm happy to do that.
So here are my concerns about the default. And I understand the argument that it would be very, very hard to exercise any kind of remedies on default because the last thing we want to do is ever be without dispatch services. But the mere fact that we have a contract shows that we're not prepared to do anything in the universe for dispatch services. We have to sort of state what we're reasonably willing to expose ourselves to. It's not as though we would not have any dispatch services if we withdrew from this agreement, but we would have to do something rather painful and inconvenient in the way of setting up our own emergency county dispatch because we couldn't rely on the system that we had joined. I know we never want to do that, but we also don't want to be exposed to a sort of unknowable increase in fees in the future. And this agreement is set up so that we only get one chance every year to withdraw from it, and we have to give 6 months notice. So what happens if the city comes to us and says, we've suddenly decided it's going to be 3 times as expensive? At some level, we have to be able to say, we understand why you're asking for that, but we simply cannot agree. And we can't wait a year to get out or even 6 months. It doesn't make sense to me to have agreements like from the city to say the agreement, for instance, provides that all of the parties will provide each other with information they ask for without forcing each other to go through burdensome Public Information Act requests. But if they don't, there's nothing happens. Except that at the, that year, just like every year, whether we were upset about something or not, we would have the right to withdraw from the agreement. It seems not very flexible and not very responsive to our needs. I'm really nervous about agreements that can only be withdrawn once a year, but which have changing cost structures that we can't control in any way or predict.
There is a section in this agreement that talks about the budgeting process, and any budget amendments would have to be approved by all three parties before any changes could be made to any monthly invoices. That is in paragraph 5, subsection B. So there are some.
That's not quite how I read it, and that might solve my problem, but I don't think it is quite clear. At the moment, it says we have another one of these uncomfortable 4-member boards, which can easily be deadlocked. And if it's deadlocked, it goes to a sort of committee of the two mayors and the county judge, but there's no explanation of what that committee does, how it votes, what does it, does it do one vote? Does it have to be unanimous? How long do they get? And it doesn't really explain what happens if they can't reach an agreement. What if each of the three wants something completely different and nobody can get a 2-to-1 vote? It sort of like refers to a possible resolution without defining what a resolution would look like or what happens if you can't get one. And each of those uncertain positions leaves us with possibly a jacked up price structure or a drastically changed allocation of our share that we can do nothing to address except every year, 6 months in advance of termination. It just doesn't seem flexible enough to suit our financial responsibilities.
There also is a provision in here, of course, for payments from current revenues and a notice of non-appropriation. So the parties as governmental entities each have an additional way of not being involved in the contract. And that is if there's no appropriation for funds to pay their portion of the contract. Not
And
that
yet-
we would ever do that for convenience, but would there be a significant problem?
That provides that any of the parties, not just us, could
That's
stop
right.
paying, but doesn't say what happens. Let's say the city of Rockport stops paying, we keep paying. It doesn't provide, for instance, that they no longer get dispatch services, just that they can stop paying. These are just kind of nuts and bolts things that to me don't quite work.
I understand your concerns. I also want to mention that the employees at the communication center, excuse me, are city of Rockport employees and not county employees, but the county does invoice for the services. No, we don't.
No, they invoice us for the employee services, but we invoice
For the
them
dispatch.
any of the building stuff.
Yes.
Anything that we do with the building, we invoice them.
I just think we need to look carefully at what happens if somebody stops paying, what happens if somebody objects to the price, what happens if somebody goes broke and stops paying. I mean, I know these things don't seem very likely, and this is an awfully important contract, and nobody would, cavalierly inject a problem. But we have been having trouble negotiating this. It's not an entirely trouble-free relationship. And
We haven't
this is
had-
our one chance to get a document that explains what happens if things blow up and we can't agree.
Commissioner, I have to say that we've had this agreement or something similar to it for about 17 years.
The budget, though, has been controversial lately.
Maybe
I
the
mean,
budget has, but as far as negotiating the changes, it has not been a difficult thing to do. In my
no.
experience, just since I've been involved, the only thing that Rockport and Fulton asked for revisions this year were related to the percentage of the share that we would pay, which lowered our percentage, and to change the effective date of the agreement. All the other changes came from me. And the other parties accepted them without hesitation.
I
So if you
don't-
want more language, I think they'll be happy to accept it. Please
Okay.
don't, please know, I'm happy to present it to them.
Then what I would like to suggest is that we table until we can have a chance to work. with this
Really,
language.
realizing that no two attorneys agree, I call a question.
All
I
question.
move to table.
Have a second. If not, call question. Roll call.
This is for the motion, or excuse me, for the item as it stands right now with
Yes.
Commissioner Casterline.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
I realize the question was called. I just will also point out that the address for the city
You're muted.
manager. The address for the city manager is incorrect, and I would suggest that be corrected. Shows 622 East Market, and I vote aye.
Commissioner Lavon,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Aye. 4 for and 1 against. Item 13. Oh, that is 13. 14.
I move to approve the Aransas County Indigent Healthcare Report for August 2022.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Commissioner Casterline, any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lavon,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous.
I move to approve the 2021-2022 end of year report for the Aransas County Indigent Healthcare Program.
Motion made. Second, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion?
I just had one question, and that is the balances on the front, which is $94,048.78 is not balanced with the one on the back, which is a little bit less, about $391. Is that just a bill that's not paid? That's for the anesthesia. I mean, it matches it exactly, but is it just for something that's not paid?
I'm not sure, Commissioner, that's Alma's report and I have no idea. I can find out. I can try to find out for you
Yeah,
and
well,
answer it.
I just was wondering because they always balance before and now it's balanced.
I'll check on that.
You just text me the information.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney. Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 16.
I move to approve the adoption of Resolution R 25, 2022, designating Richard P. Bianchi as the Program Director and Contact Person for the Indigent Defense Grant Program.
Motion made, second Commissioner Castelline. Any discussion?
Well, I just had one question. Are the judges normally in charge across the state? Are they normally in charge of the indigent?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's not the indigent billing that we do. This is the indigent defense. So this is the grant we get that helps pay for the attorneys for indigent.
That's all.
Jackie, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It says that we receive approximately 30,000 each year. What are our expenses? Because I think they're significantly
Oh,
more.
they're significantly more. They're probably
higher.
close to, between the two courts, the county and the district, they're probably close to $300,000.
So a pittance.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And they have a formula that they calculate with the money that they have, how they distribute it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item 17.
I move to approve the new job description for Chief Deputy Sheriff at a pay group of 25.
L.
So I think L.
Yes.
Motion made,
I'll second it.
second Commissioner
So
Cheney.
how much money is it in the budget already?
There's no change to the group and step pay on this.
So it's just,
We
a new-
didn't have a job description for the ones. We're just trying to do some cleanup with that part.
so both 17 and 18 are both just changes in job description, no change in salary.
No change in salary,
Thanks.
no.
But there is a change
Oh,
in
yes.
the category.
Yes, there is a change in the category. We're moving he wants to move the positions from exempt to non-exempt so that they can participate in Stone Garden.
Tell us what's exempt versus non-exempt. Is that the having to, whether you have to pay overtime? or-
Overtime.
Okay.
So they will go from positions where they were exempt from qualifying for overtime to now they will be able to be paid overtime.
So what do we estimate the effect on the budget to be of having to now budget for overtime? And is that already included in the budget for the
But
sheriff's
Stone
department?
Garden pays that.
Stone Garden pays some of the overtime. Sheriff, could you answer some of this?
There'll be no change in the, shouldn't be any budgetary impact. It'd still be on an 86-hour reporting period. They will just have to supply timesheets going forward. In the event that I'm down 3 deputies right now. And if either one of those gentlemen stepped out and filled a shift, there's no provision for them to be reimbursed for that additional time that they're putting in for the county, as well as the Stone Garden opportunity. But it's in looking across the state, we see them both ways, exempt and non-exempt employees. But we're not changing anybody's pay scale or salary. It's just providing the job descriptions that as we're filling them now, we realized we didn't have them. We've got another one that we were working on, but I did find an old copy for the training coordinator already. It's housekeeping and took the opportunity at this time to change that from exempt and non-exempt.
So Sheriff, I'd be the last to suggest that people shouldn't get paid for overtime. But if they're accustomed to needing to work more than a standard, number of hours per week, or you expect that to change in the future and Stone Garden's not going to cover it, I'm just trying to ask, how much do we think it's going to cost? And do you already have it in your budget? Because anytime you change somebody from exempt to non-exempt from exempt, you got to take into account that you might have to pay for overtime that you didn't used to have to pay for, which
like I
may be the
said,
right thing to do, but it still costs money and you got to find it somewhere.
The overtime, if they're working a slot for a deputy that's out sick or because of my vacancy, somebody's going to work it. But what this does is increases my pool of employees to fill that slot. Being down 3 right now and 1 out injured, I don't have very many people to step out there and work that. So we're going without, or I'm taxing the pool of the available resources to the point that they're going to get burned out and worn out.
So you're thinking it's a wash because you were going to get somebody to work overtime anyway, and whether it's not this person, it doesn't
Correct.
change
Yes,
things.
ma'am.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. 18.
I move to approve a new job description for Deputy Chief Detention Center at the pay group 24L.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve the August 2022 Auditor's Monthly Report.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item 20.
I move to table approval of the Aransas County Navigation District 2022 tax rate levy of no new revenue rate of 0.040434, consisting of a tax for the maintenance, operation, and upkeep of the district at the rate of 0.030079, and a tax for the interest in sinking fund on outstanding bond obligations at the rate of 0.010355.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Casterline.
And before I vote on a motion to table, I guess since the harbor master is here, I would love to hear his response to Jack Wright's comments that we read at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, Jack is a very active member of our community. He likes to come to a lot of the meetings, but what I would say on this budget is you all have gone through your budget hearings, so has the district. We conducted not less than 3 open public meeting workshops, as well as discussing the budget within 3 other open public meetings. All were, I would say, well attended, and there were plenty of comments that came about during those meetings that brought us to where we were. One of the things he brought up was the increase in overall dollars. That is true to a point. Some of those dollars were going to be pulled from our general fund. That is to cover the matches for some very large grants that we're going to have going on in 2023. In fact, about $1 million we've pulled over in that budget to do so. But that is a wash. We will pull that in. It will be spent for those matches and it will be gone. I will say, thank God we had that money for those matches because these are very needed projects, some of which are big marine projects, which include Leggett Channel, some Rockport Harbor breakwater work and bulkhead work. So that is a complete wash. Also, when we talk about our budget, we may be the only entity that is going at a no new revenue rate. That was what I think difficult. But also, if you looked at our budget that we submitted complimentary to the Commissioner's Court, it's a deficit budget. In fact, about $200,000 in deficit. One of the things that we discovered when we started doing our budget, which I'm sure that y'all did the same, every vendor that we contacted could not guarantee us a price on anything, from a ream of paper to the fuel that we put in our vehicles. For example, I'll speak on the fuel. If fuel prices go from $4 down to $3, we will have a surplus in that category. If it goes from $4.50 to $5 and above, then we will have a deficit in that category. Every piece of wood, every piece of lumber, every chemical that we buy, everything, not one vendor can guarantee that price to this Friday, little less to 2023. So what we did is we tried to be as frugal as we could. My staff and I will try to work within the constraints of that budget. And hopefully at the end of the year, we will not be showing that we had a $200,000 deficit, but we had to start somewhere. What we have done is we put out what we think is a very conservative budget. It's still be able to do those grant related projects, but also we have our bills to pay. This maintenance and operation takes care of most things that you see that goes on in Aransas County as far as the district's concerned. That's labor, that's wood, that's fuel, that's insurance, that's electricity bills, that's picking up the trash, disposing of the trash, everything that you see that is included in our budget. I would like to thank the public for attending our open public meetings, which we had various. They did have some great comments. I think our 5 elected officials listened to those comments, and this budget very much reflects it. But today we're asking you to levy that tax. Anna Marshall over here in the corner, our tax assessor collector, came up with those numbers to keep us in line with a no new revenue rate. And I think our commissioners did a great job to keep us within that budget. So tabling it, kicking the can down the road, or whatever we want to call that, is not going to change the fact that our budget is a deficit budget, but also within the no new revenue rate. And we're going to need those funds to operate the district.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Jack Wright's statement, he didn't really have specific objections to items that were in your budget. I mean, I didn't understand him to be complaining about what you were spending money for or how much. The concern I think he was expressing was he didn't see what he expected in the form of a comparison of actuals to budgeted amounts to actuals at the end of each year. Is that an analysis that you guys do?
That's what our elected officials do. We produce the information that they make those assumptions. And at the end of each year, we have an amended budget that we put forth each year as y'all do. We do not operate outside of that.
Is this information we can find on your website? It sounded like Mr. Wright tried to do a Freedom of Information Act, but he doesn't think that was included in what he got.
Well, he got 150 pages in a binder, all tabbed. I thought we did a pretty good job of trying to satisfy his wish.
Did that binder include a comparison of budgeted to actuals at the end of each year?
I don't even think that was part of his last request, but I can produce that. I mean, just like today, this is a request to levy the tax. It's not really a budget hearing. We had, like I said, at least 5 opportunities to do just that.
So if I understand one of his other major objections, it was that he thinks your reserve is actually too large. But that sounds like it would argue for a smaller tax increase. Or, I mean, what I hear you saying is that you're doing a no new revenue rate. You've got a rather large reserve balance built up. You're glad it's there. You have plans for spending it this year, primarily to make matching funds for large grants that you're going to be pursuing. And you don't see a need to raise your tax rate because you have a rather large reserve to dip into.
Correct. If you think about some of the properties that the district own and maintain, I think he was a little off on his estimate of total that we have in our reserve fund. But one bulkhead would basically expend every dime of that and then some. So when we have a major problem like we did in Hurricane Harvey, we started working the very day after, and we started expending district funds to basically help rescue not only boats, but people and our properties from further destruction, including putting in about 80 feet of steel bulkhead at Leggett Channel, just so we wouldn't lose that very channel that supplies the water entrance and exit for most of the drainage in Aransas County. To say that we should pull down all of those reserve funds and make ourselves so vulnerable to a natural disaster is, I think, not wise. But
Excuse me just a moment. I'm not thinking that anyone has suggested that you would use all of your reserves. I know that from some of my constituents, not Jack Wright, although he is a constituent, I have many times been asked, why is the Navigation District Reserve Fund so high? Maybe you don't have 10 million, but I think you usually show on your financials as I receive them with the agenda, over 9 million. So it is a large reserve.
thank God.
Yes, I'm glad you do.
I
What
would
I'm
like to see
saying,
that
excuse me,
more than double that
just one
because
sec.
of the fact of
I
the
did
cost of
come
these
in
repairs.
and visit with you last week and asked for a copy of the 2022 budget and what your actual year-to-date expenses and revenues were as summed against that. It could be two separate sheets. It doesn't have to be a fancy report. My thinking, it was not to cause you undue work, but just that most organizations would have something that would show by line item what they had spent year to date. My understanding from you was you could eventually produce that report, but it didn't sound like that was a report readily available. And I will say, I do look at the financials I receive when I get the packet each month, and I have not seen anything like that. And I think that's something critical for us to review. And I apologize, I couldn't make your budget hearings. I would much rather have been there instead of sitting here at our own budget hearings. But I was called to be here, and that's why I missed them. And I don't believe they're videoed, so I couldn't watch later.
They're not videoed. Yes, we do have those documents. Yes, I can produce those.
Okay.
The very day that you went in, I will try to respond. I was the only person in that office. Unlike the county, who has multiple departments, they have more people in the auditor's department than I have work in my whole office. They have more people in the treasurer's office than work in my whole office. I had one at jury duty, I had one sick and one in the hospital and one at lunch, and I'm there answering the telephones. We were stretched very thin. I couldn't just shut down all business operations.
I
to
didn't
go and
expect you
pull.
to.
And that's why I couldn't just produce that. But like I said, this is about a tax levy. It's not really about our budget. And we're staying at the no new revenue rate.
But the tax levy funds
We should
this
almost be
budget.
commended by trying to stay within those means, because we're not trying to raise anything. We're trying to live as lean as we can. And that's, I don't even know how else to answer that.
May I? Tommy Moore, Commissioner at Large, Aransas County Navigation District. Commissioner Russo, where do you find the position that you oversee an elected body's business and by not levying the tax as stated in the law?
I'm not saying that I oversee your business. I am requesting as the liaison to the NAV district a financial document, which I have visited with before with Mr. Barrett, and he has said he would provide to me. But as of yet, I haven't received it. The auditor for the county can request reports, and I have visited with her several times over the last many months about getting some of those reports. I don't know if she's had any success or not. I've not received any.
As a citizen, absolutely.
The auditor for the county is
Where is your
able to.
concern? Are you concerned that we're not financially viable or we don't do a good job?
I think you are financially viable, yes. I think the fact you have so much in your reserve shows you're financially viable.
And why are you not wanting to levy that tax?
We're
Because
gonna
you
call
don't have
a
enough
question.
information? Is that your position?
Call a question.
Call the question.
Can I get my question? I
No,
mean, is
sir.
that your
Once
position?
they've called the question, it's time to call the question.
This is embarrassing.
Roll call.
What's
This
up is the motion
on the
table.
The motion on the table is to table by Commissioner Russo, and that was seconded by Commissioner Casterline. So this is a vote to table item 20, approving the navigation district tax rate.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Nay.
Commissioner Casterline,
One name. Go ahead. That's your line.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
Okay, so then that means that we've tabled this.
All right. All right, item 21.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
This is just a formality to just present you with their budget. Their budget's already been approved. The tax rate's already been approved. This is just so I can levy the taxes, which I need to start as soon as all the, to get the tax bills out by October 1st.
Okay.
So if we need a discussion with them about how they budget things, I would believe that you would put it on the agenda to talk to the navigation district at future. But this is just a formality for them so I can levy their taxes. If that makes sense. Today.
Then we might need to.
The motion's already passed.
The deadline, October 1st. So we need to be sure and get it back on the
You guys have
agenda.
already adopted, but I need to get the tax bills out by October 1st or shortly thereafter.
So if we take this back up
And it
in
takes
2
me,
weeks.
it takes me at least 2 weeks with my vendors and everything to even
When
attempt to
do you
get
need a decision from us on the motion that we just tabled?
today, preferably.
If you
Because
don't do
I
it,
really need to start levying next week when the city finishes their adoption on Tuesday night.
so you need it next week.
No, today, this week, preferably. I mean, this
Friday.
week, because I'm sorry, I'm like a work in a week here. Tomorrow, the city adopts, Wednesday, the mud district adopts, and I need to start levying.
If we have to do a special meeting, we have to do it by Friday is what I'm hearing.
Preferably Wednesday, so I can start this week, please. But I know you have your restraints, but like I said, this is just a formality. I mean, they've already adopted everything.
What happens if we don't give you a decision by Wednesday?
It's gonna tie up tax bills, but by law, we need to have them out by October 1st.
What
or
happens if
shortly.
you don't get them out by October 1st?
It's just the law by short, I mean, I can get them out the 2nd or 3rd, but I'm just saying,
What happens if you can't get them out until October 15th?
I'm a breach of the law. Because I mean, I have my tax code that I have to go by. And you're stopping the residents from being able to pay their taxes in that, giving them the time they they need. And it does change our delinquency.
Is there another way we can address our concerns about the NAV district's budget that does not require?
Well, it should have been addressed during their budget hearings, because that's just like
Today,
ours.
What, is there something that the commissioners court can do today before we adjourn that allows us to resolve our budget concerns, but does not throw the tax levy process into total chaos and risk violating the law?
Well, I can't answer to the budget, so I'm not familiar with the budget issues.
I'm not really
but-
asking you that question so much,
Okay,
Ms.
all
Marshall.
right.
I'm suggesting to the commissioners court that we'd better do something. We're about to get ourselves into a serious jam.
That affects everybody.
Well, it would be real nice you to said this 15 minutes ago.
I'm sorry. I was trying to stop before you did the vote and I didn't want to interrupt.
I think one of the big problems that we've had is we've received numerous complaints on the NAV district for some time about not giving Public Information Act reviews, not giving some of the information.
I think the problem though is this all should have been addressed during the budget hearings, just like we have our issues with our budget hearings and they need to be taken care of ahead of time. I don't know if it's something that you guys can work on from now for next year to make sure they do the process for next year.
It's been going on a long time already.
Our solution to the problem can't be just block the levy and then, let things break.
Right, and like I said, they are going with
So-
the no new revenue, so it's not affecting a tax
Now you're talking
increase.
about the policy and I'm trying to talk about the procedure here. Ms. Austin, is there any reason why we can't now consider another motion to, or can we undo a previously voted on motion? Do we have any, or we just don't have to do a special meeting
Well,
before our
you-
deadline runs?
What you did was made a motion and approved the motion to table.
Right?
I
Can you
know, of-
untable something?
I'm sorry?
Is it possible to untable something?
Yes, you can remove it from the table, consider it. I don't know of any rule that you've adopted as a commissioner's court that would prevent you from doing that immediately after tabling. The alternative is that we could put a notice out and have a special meeting. The soonest we could do that would be Thursday.
I move to untable and consider an alternative process for resolving our budget problems that is falls short of obstructing a levy, a tax levy.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded.
Was that Commissioner Cheney who seconded?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So we're going to vote to untable it and then
talk
we
about,
might have to
figure out what to
decide
do.
again if we're going to approve. Okay.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Nay.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Nay.
Okay, so that's when we had 3 to untable.
Right, so
Yes.
now it's untabled.
Okay, now I think we need to discuss what can we do in the way of resolving our issues with the Navajo District's budget process, short of obstructing a tax levy.
Do we need to have a motion first
Yes.
before we have a discussion?
If I'm-
Does somebody move?
I move that we undertake a process to resolve our budget issues with the NAV district and yet move today to approve the tax levy so as to meet the deadline.
Commissioner, we have to-
Don't we have to do what the agenda item states?
I was getting ready to say that our agenda item is limited just to the levy of the no new tax rate. I would ask that we talk after the meeting about putting a future item on the agenda if you want to discuss matters outside of levying the tax rate.
Okay, well, in that case, I revert to the original motion to approve the tax levy.
I'll second that.
Can we add to the motion to request that the
Place a condition.
county attorney's office review the allegations as far as their legality against the navigation district?
We do often add conditions, even if they're not stated on the agenda. Isn't that within our purview?
I don't know that you need to make a motion, Commissioner, for that to happen. I'm taking that language from you right now, and I will visit with the county attorney when she's out of trial today to see if she can look into that. When you're looking at whether something is legal or not, then of course it would be up to Amanda to decide whether to do that. I don't think that you should make a motion.
No, I don't, I'm not trying to make a condition
Commissioner
of
Cheney
legal-
or Commissioner
Oh,
Casterline was.
I see.
All right.
Well, the condition I was proposing to the motion was instead to move forward on a process of resolving some budget concerns, but not obstructing the.
I would
levy
ask the
itself.
commissioners just to use the motion language that's on the agenda because it's very narrow what we're doing today, and it's only reviewing the no new tax rate and the levy of that tax by Anna Marshall. And then if you have other matters that you want to talk
We
about,
can make a conditional approval, can't we?
because of the nature of the item being tax related, it's best practice to limit our motion to the language that's on the agenda. If it's something that is tax related, grant related, some of those items, then we definitely want to be more strict with the way that we make our motions,
Well,
but
let's
that's up
try,
to you.
let's try it that way and see if we can get 3 votes for it. Then I revert to the original motion, approve the tax levy.
Second.
Okay, I had a second from Commissioner Cheney.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills,
Aye.
unanimous.
Item 21. I move to approve the 2023 salaries, expenses, and other allowances for elected officials.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Against?
Commissioner Laubach.
I'm sorry, I was still trying to figure out what we just did, and I need a moment. What we're now voting on is to approve the salaries, expenses, and other
Yes, number
allowances.
21.
And this, will this include, am I voting on COLA when I,
This is for elected officials, salaries, expenses.
including COLA? Then I
Yes,
vote no.
Judge Mills.
Yes. 3 for, 2 against. Item number 22.
Move to approve adopting the 2023 budget. This budget will raise more than total property taxes than last year's budget by $666,363 or 5.03%, and that amount $382,356 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year.
Motion made and seconded by Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
I have a question. There's a couple of the hotel motel amounts that we talked to. One was the hotel association, the other was
When
Right,
we
the
approve a
Rockport.
budget, are we actually approving the hot fund allocations?
Yes,
too?
ma'am, that will be approving the total budget.
my recommendation would be that we do not fund either of those in this budget.
So
And I would
you're,
add that to my agenda. To my
So that
motion.
your motion is to approve this budget minus those hot fund
Minus those
allocations.
two hot funds.
the 16,000 for the hotel lodging and the 4,000 for Rockport Con.
Right.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded by Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
All right.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
I'm sorry, are we just voting on that one change to the budget? We're not
No, we
voting
voted
on the
on the
whole
change
budget?
already. Now the whole budget.
We'll have to-
No, I still had some things I wanted to ask about the budget. Sorry. Okay, on page 13, the non-departmental, we had eliminated a salary for an appointed official on the 829 revision, and then on the 99 revision, that money was added back in there.
Yes, ma'am, it was an error. That money was left off at the first one. You brought it to my attention. I noticed that I had left it off. It does belong there.
Okay. And then under the salary, regular full-time on there, in your notes, you identified that those salaries include the judge's administrative assistant, an unfilled PIO position, and 40% of the venue projects coordinator. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And my question is, the PIO duties were reassigned to the administrative assistant. So why do we still hold a full position in there? Since I thought we did away with that position.
We can remove it if it's the courts. We were not told to remove that position.
I left it in there thinking that the new judge might want a person as a PIO person instead of having his administrative assistant having to double up and try to do both of them.
What is the salary for that administrative position?
I don't know right off the top of my head, probably. Oh, but Tana's got it. Are you talking about the PIO position or the
Yes.
administrative?
It is a 24.
It's right at 37,000 annually.
And I would like to amend this budget to remove that position from this department, from the budget.
Is there a second on that?
Second. If it really becomes necessary to add this position next year, there's always the general.
Any
fund.
other changes? Roll call.
This is just on that change.
I've got
I
two
would think
changes.
personally we should leave that in there and where the new judge has the ability to complete his, to arrange his staff different if he wants to. It'll end up being a surplus in the budget if it's not used.
Or it'll end up being a charge on the general fund. If it is, he'll have the freedom either way.
I have one other question, Jackie. On page 47, the extension, the marine agent that was added there,
Yes, ma'am.
I believe that agent is the same as the two agents, Ginger Smith and Megan.
No,
Yes.
marine agent. We don't have.
It's going to be a marine agent.
Okay, but it's the same category where a portion of the budget's paid by Texas A&M.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So I believe we do not incur the burdens associated with that position, like the retirement.
Right.
Right.
That is correct.
So in the revised, where you show adding that marine agent, whether or not we're going to, were the burdens included?
Well, social security, taxes, unemployment, workers' comp are all. in
But
there.
not health insurance and not
No, we only
TCDRS.
have one full-time employee who has health insurance.
Okay. So the two burdens for retirement and for health insurance, if that position is filled, are not in this budget.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so right now we've got the wording on the agenda, and then we've got two, what I would call caveats to not fund something. One was to not fund either the 16,000, this is HOT, the hotel.
That one we voted on.
I
Well,
don't think we voted.
stopped voting
We
because
didn't vote.
we were taking the whole budget into
No,
consideration.
I thought we voted on the hot fund amendment. Okay, but what we didn't. do
See, we're all
was-
confused now.
We did vote to amend the budget to include the change to the hot funds allocation, but we did not vote on the budget as a whole, including that change. We have not yet voted on
Haven't
any
done
other.
We have not
changes.
voted on number 22 at all. We've just talked about it.
Exactly, but we did vote on amending what.
No, you did
No,
not
we did
complete that
not.
vote. No.
That's the question.
It started to, but then it turned out that we were voting on the entire budget, not just that one item.
So the difficulty becomes, there's, the second item is to remove the money for the PIO with the 37,000.
I call
And-
that question.
Okay, when we vote on that separately as an amendment, and then vote separately on the hot fund change.
We're
as
gonna
an
have to
amendment.
we're gonna have to do 3 votes. The
Right.
first vote would be to remove the hot fund allocation. The second vote would be related to the PIO
PIO.
position. And then the third vote would be whether to adopt the budget with those changes, however you choose to approve them or not.
Very good. Okay, so right now, this is to remove the 16,000 and the 4,000, the hotel and the Rockport Fulton.com from the hot fund, to not fund either of those. That's
So moved.
Commissioner Casterline and seconded by.
Motion made.
Second.
It's
Second,
already, I
Commissioner
already
Russo.
have the motion and the second.
Okay.
All right, roll call then.
Commissioner Cheney,
All right.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. We're removing those. Then the next one is to remove the PIO. I already have the vote for that and the motion and the second. Commissioner Cheney,
Now, this is to remove that out.
to
The PIO.
remove the PIO, the
PIO.
$37,000 from the
What'd
budget.
you say?
Nay.
Nay.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Nay.
Okay, so that stays in. Now we have the wording under number 22 with the these two
Amendment for the
changes.
hot funds, right.
And I
Motion-
have a motion still, but do we need to change it since it changed?
Nothing changed on.
No, no.
Okay,
Does
So,
anybody have any
Commissioner-
Other things that we need to make a motion on before that?
Oh,
Or-
is this, so this budget includes, it's got 5% COLA in it?
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
ready?
Let's have the question.
I moved to, do you already have the motion to?
I
approve
have
the
a
budget?
motion from you with the second by Commissioner Cheney.
Roll call.
To approve the budget.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay.
Commissioner Laubach,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Aye, 3 for, 2 against. I'm striking item 23 because item 25 will address it. So item 24,
I move to approve adopting the 2022 tax roll and levy.
Second.
motion made and second, Mr. Castelline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Against.
Commissioner Laubach,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Aye. 3 for, 2 against. Item 25,
Move to approve the adoption of the resolution R 26/2022 resolution for the 2022 tax roll levy and rate. The total tax rate to be levied for the county of Aransas for the tax year 2022 be and is hereby set at 0.358411 per $100 valuation, with the assessment ratio of 100% to be assessed and collected by the tax assessor collector for Aransas County as follows. A 0.258605 per $100 valuations for the purpose of the county ad valorem maintenance and operations funds. B 0.041266 per $100 valuation for the purpose of county ad valorem interest and sinking fund. C 0.050425 per $100 valuation for the purpose of the county farm market flood control maintenance and operations, with the resulting levy being split on a percentage basis, 89% designated for the county road and bridge maintenance and operation fund, 11% designated for the flood control maintenance and operation fund. D 0.008115 per $100 valuation for the purpose of the county farm to market road flood control fund only, interest and sinking fund.
I'll second that motion.
motion second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Nay.
Commissioner Lava,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Aye. 3 for, 2 against. Item 26,
I move to approve ratifying the property tax increase reflected in the 2023 budget.
Second.
motion made second, Commissioner Castelline. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Against.
Commissioner Lava,
Nay.
Judge Mills.
Yes, 3 for, 2 against. 27,
Move to approve budget line item transfers.
I'll second that.
motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
Have we got any?
We have none at this time.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lava,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous.
I move to approve accounts payable and payroll liabilities.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion?
Jackie, what would you have us know?
There's not anything very unusual. We have a few for our capital projects. We do have a couple of large, looks like checks. What the treasurer has done is invested some of our funds that are sitting idle in the bank account. So we do have several large deposits into our pools for investments.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Lava,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Now it's time for any department head or elected official to bring anything up they'd like to.
I need to update the commissioners on the airport grant project involving our drainage. You may remember it as the sinkhole that was out in front of the airport terminal. It was being managed by TxDOT Aviation, but we were in the bid phase. We opened the bids last week, or we had bid opening last week and there were none. So TxDOT intends to rebid the project exactly as is. And if that comes back without any bids, then we're going to have to ask the FAA for a waiver, because ultimately what it's coming down to is the type of concrete that we have to use is an FAA spec. They won't accept TxDOT spec. And it's a small 20 by 20 is what we're projected to need of this special concrete. And it's we feel like most of the contractors that were asked to participate or to bid probably shied away from it because of that requirement, because it's hard to get, so expensive, and it's really a variable that nobody can really put a number on what it's going to cost. So if we get if we're accepted into the waiver process, that'll take us well into 2023, and we can expect that the TxDOT version of the concrete would be what we would be asking for. I think we would ask for an alternate for asphalt. But nevertheless, if this next bid phase, the next part of the bid phase comes back with no bids, that's where we'll be.
Anyone? Oh, come on up, Laura.
Hi, Lori Caesar, Animal Control. Today at noon starts off the Coastal Bend Community Foundation's free spay and neuters in our area. The streets that were selected this time for this starting are Monkey Road, San Antonio, and Fourth Ward Road. Okay, we picked the 3 most active roads that we could start, and it will all be free to those residents. We'll start passing out the flyers and stuff for it. And as they fill up and that, they'll let me know where our money is every 2 weeks. So we'll add additional areas as we can. So just if you're in that areas, we're going to be handing these out to the people so we can start get this going.
And are they, you're
That's
saying
great.
that's the most active area for strays? Is that what?
We want to focus, I think, being proactive and focus on retention. So I don't have a puppy season again. Even if it's 100 spay and neuters, say at an average of 6, that'd be 600 animals I'm looking at possibly coming into the shelter annually, where we stand about, we run about 500 to 800 animals a year. So anything that will help work on retention, because they'll just get another dog. They won't, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I could take it away and they'll get another one. So it's focusing on retention, being proactive instead of always reactive.
Lori,
So
could
it's
you
a
give
start.
those streets again? You said Monkey Road, San Antonio.
Yeah, I have a.
And
flyer
Fort
if you'd
Worth
like one.
is the last one, the
Yes,
third?
ma'am.
Okay. That's what I got to,
That's what we
Commissioner.
started on.
And are you taking these to
Yes.
like people's
I have several
homes or
people,
something?
yes.
Okay, good.
I have several volunteers who've already started.
This is
I wasn't
terrific.
released till noon today by the foundation.
Thanks for this.
Anything else?
I would just like to remind you, with my report, you did receive the fee reports for, I believe, June and July.
Nothing else. We'll be going into a closed session.
One other thing before we start. With all the discussion on the appraisal district, the navigation district, I think it is time that we request what we can legally request from them on a regular basis, because this is just getting out of hand with so many different things. The only reason I voted for it or even was involved in this is because of what Ms. Marshall said. But this is just that's a public entity and they need to act like a public entity. That's all I have to say.
Okay. We'll be going to the closed session. So you're welcome to wait outside.
Somebody needs to read the item and make a motion to go into closed session, please.
I can do that. Consider convening into a closed session to consult with and receive advice from legal counsel about insurance matters related to Aransas County's projects and insurance claims from Hurricane Harvey pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, which authorizes closed sessions for a governmental body to consult with its attorneys regarding advice on legal matters pertaining to pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer, or a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Law, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, well, we went into closed session at 10:40, came out at 10:59. Any
Move to adjourn.
I'll
Motion made.
second that.
Second, Commissioner Russo, roll call.
Aye.
Mr. Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.